welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at a new game from DVG, Dan Verson Games, and it is Zero Leader. So this is another one of their Leader series games, obviously a solitaire game, and this is based on you be playing as the Japanese with fighter and bomber squadrons, doing missions and linking them together through a campaign in World War II. So if you've played any of the Leader series, you'll probably be quite familiar with what's in here. If you haven't, this box is chock full. It's like coming apart. It's a big 4-inch box, and it is very, very heavy. There is a ton of cardboard in here. But you can play, individual missions don't take very long. Like, they take minutes. But if you want to play the campaign, you can stretch, but it's like anywhere from like 6 to, 15 odd missions, sometimes more than that. And you link them together, and your pilots gain experience over time, and that's kind of one of the big draws of this game. So, the first thing we've got in here is a massive rulebook. Let's see. Well, don't need any of that stuff. But we're looking at like 40 pages of rules. But the reality is this is not... everything is very largely spaced in a ton of diagrams and pictures and a lot of white space. So whilst it is that long, it's not actually that long. And then there's like expansion rules, optional rules, rookie stuff, campaign-based rules. But to actually just dive into it, it really doesn't take that long. And I believe this is all chronological, so you can just kind of, when you first get it, literally just open the rulebook and you kind of do it as you go, and you'll be able to do it that way, which I appreciate when a game does that. Alright, so there's a number of things in here. So we have this little auxiliary board. This is our dogfighting board. Now, this is an addition that was put in, I think, with Corsair Leader. With the earlier titles, things like Phantom Leader, you would just fly your missions. Doing dogfights was just, you kind of have a roll-off and you shoot the other guy down. Because those are jet fighters, the engagements were much shorter, and whoever got first target won, basically. In this, to simulate the World War II combat, it's maneuvering, shooting each other with short-range machine guns a lot of the time, and cannons. This has a little mini version of the combat from the Down in Flames series. So you have a little, it's kind of like that, where you're gonna, I think, do they use the dice rolling from their solitaire system? But yeah, you roll a d10 for the opponent, and it's can you gain some advantage? You have to do these little dogfights. It's an extra little layer, and they have a board to help track all that stuff for you. The main board is this one here. Go the right way around. And it's not massive, right? This is a game, this is what you're going to have out with a couple of cards that are your planes and maybe a sheet of paper. It doesn't take up a ton of space. A lot of the stuff won't be used that's in the box all the time. You use one of the campaign cards. You create your squadron, those are the ones you use. All the other planes, you don't use it at that time. So, sequence of play, which is nice and detailed, goes through all the different steps. A couple holding boxes, and then these are the areas through which you will fly your mission. There'll be a card in the middle which will have the specific target for that day and for that mission. And then all of these different approach boxes will be filled with, well, I guess it depends, it'll be other enemy fighters, anti-air assets. In this one, I presume we'll have, like, destroyer pickets and things like that. And so you're going to take you've got your cards, which represent your planes, and your little counters on the map, and you're going to move them through the areas. You fly in, try to destroy the target, and then fly out. And you're trying to, altitude to avoid certain anti-aircraft types that might affect certain altitudes, trying to maybe navigate away from large fighter groups so you don't have to engage them, things like that. So, the next thing we've got is an absolute massive amount of paper. So these are all card, and these are the campaigns. And so you have campaigns for all the different types. Like, there's so many different engagements. So you actually have a campaign for Pearl Harbor. I think the short campaign is 2 days, medium is 3 days, and long is 4 days. This might have some abstraction in it as well. Campaign 3 days, 6 days, 9 days. This one goes up to 9 days, Wake Island. We start getting, if this one's only 4 days, this one's a short one for Coral. Midway is 4 days, okay. So this one's got 10 days as the long one. I guess some of these might be a little bit shorter. I've played this, yeah, so we're getting up to like the 12 days for New Georgia. The longer ones are very interesting because as your pilots get exhausted or they gain experience, trying to manage the well-being of your squadron. When you lose guys who are aces, it's really painful. But when guys become aces, they suddenly unlock greater abilities. That's part of the interest of these. But there's a ton. These are all different set campaigns. You can just play one-offs if you want, though. But I don't know. The best parts of the game is linking the missions together. Oh, this guy did this last mission. Can he do it again? Or do I like seeing the growth. But there's a ton of fixed campaigns in here, which is the replay in this there's a ton of it. You have a player log. This is one you'll want to obviously photocopy. So you have all of your different pilots down here. I say up to 12 because you're a squadron, and then the number of missions that you're going to play. So I think max is 12 in this game, and then you track all the experience that they gain. Very much what you'd expect from a campaign style game. A couple of different play aids here as well. Some of which you'll need, some of which you won't. So this one's just like a keywords reference. So some of your cards will have keywords on them, or target, or other event cards and things refer to things like, oh, it gains this trait or has that trait. That's all here on a nice handy sheet. Zero leader crossover rules. Zero attacker and Corsair defender. I wonder if that's mixing the two. I'm not sure about that one. But another play aid. Pilot skills. So these are the special abilities that you can gain. And again, it's just definitions of those. This is the one that you will probably want to keep more handy. Only because it has a couple of your different points, costs, and charts as you're setting up your campaigns as well. And it just gives you a little bit more detail about various different, more kind of honed in attack sequences. So that's those. Then the next hunk of cardboard is all of the counters in this game. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Was that 11 sheets of counters? Yeah. Okay. And again, if you've played one of these later games, you'll be very familiar with the kind of stuff you get in here. So you have a bunch of these munitions, and these have success values on them. When you drop a bomb, you roll a die. You're trying to hit that target number, and if you do, you'll score a hit. Some samurai spirit markers, looks like some damage markers, a couple of little markers for damage, maintenance needed. And these are dual-sided as well. These are enemy bandits on this side, so these are guys that you'll end up fighting. And on the back of them, you'll have things like AAA, flak, little riflemen shooting their rifles up into the air when you're flying down low. Or you have these no sights. So what you're going to do is you put all of these into a cup, basically. And there's an absolutely insane amount of these, by the way. You're putting these into cups. And yeah, just it's so much stuff. you put them into a big cup, and then when it's like, hey, you draw out a number of sights. So you're going to pull 3 or 4, and you're looking at the sight side of it, the side that doesn't have the yellow stripe on it. So some of the sights say no sight on them, which is pretty nice. Or from the same cup, it'll be like, hey, pull a number of bandits. So you pull out a number of bandits, and some of them say no bandit on them under certain circumstances as well. But I like that you pull them from the same pool, so you start pulling a whole bunch of like the really good flak. On the back of those are the really good fighters, so you start taking out some of the good fighters, so you're not going to get insanely overwhelmed, so to speak. So these are damage markers for the targets. How much damage do you do and take? And there's a whole load of these throughout the game as well. Okay. And then these are your planes. These are the ones that you're going to fight. So these correspond, they got little names on them and icons for the planes that they are. They correspond to the cards that are in here that we'll take a look at. So you'll have your cards out which have the abilities on them and their names. And then on the board you have the little counters that you're going to play with. There's a whole bunch of those. And they have a low altitude side, which is a little L on it. And then a high altitude side, which is a little red H on them. More bandits. Just so many bandits. And then we have, I believe these are naval-based interdiction sites. So I think these grey ones represent naval guns on a ship. So if you have, like, some of your targets, like this shows an island here, but I think you can have a target that's like a battleship. And so it'll have fixed, it has fixed batteries of known sites, I believe. And so you're going to line those up as like the prow of the ship and the stern of the ship, which I think is very interesting. And it's just a different kind of thing. And then a whole bunch of different markers for your different pilot abilities and ace statuses, things like that. So there's an absolute massive cardboard in here. You'll want to get some big baggies and bits and pieces for that. We have 2d10. The game uses d10s. Generally speaking, you're trying to roll high, which is why they put the little aeroplane on the 10 side. 10's always good. Yes. And then we have stacks of cards. Shipping insert, nothing under there, but we will get rid of that so we can fit everything back in the box. So let's look at this deck here, because this has some target cards in it. He says, not being able to open it. Come on. So, let's see, we got target cards. There was a bunch, which I like. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, there's a ton of them. Nice. Means lots of variety, that's good. Event cards, and then some planes. That's basically the three types of cards that we'll look at. These are all just more planes, and there's tons of them. So, the target cards, and these will be, you take the ones from your campaign, and then you make a deck of those, and then you kind of deal one, hey, this is the mission for today. So for example, this is shore batteries. I believe this 3 means you need to do 3 damage to it. So you need to take enough bombs to be able to succeed, to get 3 damage on here, but also enough to fail, because it is dice rolls, and you might mess those up. And it'll tell you how many sites and bandits are in the target area and how many are in each approach area. Victory points if you destroy it. Intel that you'll gain on it as well. And then it has a couple of these keywords on it. And those keywords, again, you can reference that play aid, and that'll tell you what those mean. So it'll have some special abilities. Dispersed means I think it's harder to hit because they're spread out. It's not a concentrated target, for example. Hostile force, invasion forces. So it has all of these different, and there's just an insane amount of these, which is good. You want variety, that's what you want. Yeah, so here's the cruisers, battleships, escorts. So you're going to place this out, this little troop ship, and it might have a couple of, small AA batteries on it, but, not a whole ton compared to something like attacking a battleship, which will have a bunch more guns, or a cruiser, for example. Some of the missions are doing photo recon. You're just trying to fly in, take some photos, and get out. So those are the target cards. The event cards, which always interesting. And I want to make sure, do they do them the same way? You draw a target, bound event card. Okay, good. Draw home by the maker. Yes. Okay, good. This is the fun stuff. I really liked these in Phantom Leader, which is the only one of these I played. So you have a little deck of cards. You'll pull a number of these every mission. So you draw a... okay, you draw a target-bound event card. So you pull this. At the start of this mission, inflict 2 stress on a pilot to add +3 to their rolls. Every time a pilot destroys a site or bandit, reduce their stress by 1. And then if you're pulling it in the homebound, and then you pull another one for homebound flight, and it says pay 1 SO point to or the lowest ranked pilot in the next mission suffers -2 on their rolls for the rest of the mission. So, like, events happen to you in a number of different occasions, and it's a way for them. They've got 3 things on here. It's a way to just triple the size of this deck, basically. So it saves space and printing, but, you know, if you have a bad event that comes up on one card, in one phase, you like, no, okay, I'm not going to pull that one next time for the next phase. I don't know, I like how these work. And they just add some spice and zhuzh to each of your missions. But that's, I mean, okay, the planes, the most important part. Yeah, let me skip over that. Moron. Okay. Well, okay, these need to have a bit of, I need to organize these. Okay, let's look at these ones. I think this is what we're looking for here. So, the pilots, oh, there's even more. Oh, there's even more. Here, let me get another one. Do I have the other one in here? No. Some of these, okay. There is some organization to be done with these when I don't know why it is the way that it is. But, for example, we're looking at this 2-engine bomber. He's called Sawada. This is 3 of, I believe he has 4 cards. And they're all dual-sided. And part of that is he's a newbie, and he's got these pretty, basically, bad stats on them. And then he becomes green after, I think, a number of missions. And then he goes from green to average, I think. Then he goes from average to skilled, from skilled to veteran, and from veteran to legendary. I got a couple of recruit. There's a recruit and trainee as well. So there's another card for him somewhere in this deck. So when you're making your squadrons, it'll be like you can have 6 trainees, 2 green and 1 skilled. And so picking your squadron and decking out your guys, it's like a whole thing. And that's it's one of the things I actually really like about this game is building your squadron, and then when you go to fly a mission, you see what the mission is, and then you're like, okay, great. I'm gonna now pick up all the different. You load them out with their payloads. Again, one of my favorite things about these games. So you're like, okay, I need to do 4 damage to this thing. So I need to take a couple of these big heavy bombs that are more likely to do damage. Well, if I'm taking the big bombs, those can only go on the bombers. It means I can take fewer fighters. So when I take the fighters, I need them to be able to maybe bring drop tanks so that they can fly more and have less stress. Or I need them to protect the bombers from all the fighters that are coming in. Balancing your forces as to what you bring on each mission, because you can't bring all 12. If you bring all 12, everyone's going to get stressed really, really quickly, and then you won't be able to fly missions successfully, because the more stressed they are, the less well they perform on the next mission, for example. So, a lot of cool stuff in this game, but that's the contents of this box. There is a massive amount more planes, and it's everything that you would expect, but there's a ton of replay in these games, so we're excited to play this. I really love Phantom Leader. I've played a lot of Thunderbolt Apache Leader as well, and I'm excited to get my teeth into this one as well, because I've looked at Corsair Leader, but Grant has it, and he's played some of that, so I want to play a World War II one and see where we're at with it, and I'm excited to play. We'll let you know how it is. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.